In this video, we will learn the fundamental steps for using Dabliu Notes, how to open a file, and how to write directly on it. Let's begin by selecting the Create New button now. Now, here you can see the option to create either a note or a book. The key difference is that a note is essentially a file that is created directly within the application, whereas a book, or rather a notebook, is what we refer to as the Dabliu book. That is, that particular notebook with a distinctive watermark, which is used together with the Dabliu Pen Plus to begin by writing with the pen on paper first, and then move to the digital version at a later stage. Now I will select a note, and then from among the different available formats, I will choose the highlighted one because depending on the device I am using Dabliu Notes on, the highlighted option is already the one that most closely matches the dimensions and the height to width aspect ratio of my device. In this particular case, it is 16.9. I tap Create and then enter the whiteboard. The default sheet, as you can see here, is white, but if you need some different backgrounds, you can tap this icon and select them as you like: squares, dots, or lines. And you can also choose to change the background colors of these more basic backgrounds too. Otherwise, you can browse through the productivity section and then go and look for something else. Now, some of you might be thinking, but why have a board or a daily planner inside a whiteboard? Well, this isn't a whiteboard. This is the display on Dabliu Touch of an application, Dabliu Notes, which you take with you on all the devices you have available. And that's why it can also be very useful indeed to have this kind of background for your work. The daily planner fits in nicely. You can see that we have also developed some rather specific and indeed fairly particular backgrounds for music, or even backgrounds that make use of primary school handwriting lines, which can actually be quite interesting and useful for teachers who need to show children clearly how to form their letters. And then, why not? For PE or for sports science, it could be rather interesting to use a football pitch background, perhaps complete with symbols, to help structure and plan some game strategies. Well, I don't play much football and I think it shows, so now I'll simply choose a lined background. How do I write on Dabliu Notes? Well, first of all, I've got the writing tools down here at the bottom. You can see that we've got a pen, a pencil, and a highlighter. If you tap just once, you simply select the tool. For example, here we have our pen with its very defined and clearly visible stroke. We also have the pencil with a slightly more blurred line, and the highlighter, which is already set up with its default transparency so that it can be used without any problems over the first two lines, without erasing them. If, however, you want to modify these strokes, you can clearly do so by tapping the icon twice, and then you can adjust the stroke thickness, and you can also change the stroke type. In this way, you can see that it really seems to have been drawn with an ink nib rather than with a marker or a fine liner pen, and you can also change the colors too. You'll find very much the same range of options in the pencil tool as well, namely the thickness and the color, and likewise in the highlighter tool too. Another particularly interesting feature is the ability for several people to write on Dabliu Notes at exactly the same time. How so? You can enable the multi-touch function, and you can also set different colors, depending on which tool you're using, either the stylus or your finger. After that, people can write and interact on the whiteboard, and therefore within the notebook, directly on the note itself, using their own clearly distinct colors. If you have any comments, we'd like to remind you to leave them in the comments, and otherwise we'll see you next time.